It had been almost 2 years since I last visited my grandfather's old lake house. City life kept me tethered to construction deadlines and office stress, and the thought of tackling cobwebs in a creaky house 3 hours away always got pushed aside. But this time, I was committed. My wife, Emily, had been on me for months, half teasing, half insistento carve-out time. So I took a week off, packed the SUV with snacks, bug spray, and our son Liam's gaming console, and we hit the road. As we wound through the tree-lined path to the lake, a spark of nostalgia hit me. That weathered house sat on 3 acres of prime lakeside land, and despite years of neglect, it had solid bones like an old athlete still capable of a knockout punch. The plan was straightforward: assess the damage, sketch out a renovation that wouldn't drain our savings, and maybe sneak in some fishing. But as we rounded the final curve, something was wrong. A glossy black Jeep was parked in the gravel drive, with a blue sedan next to it. I frowned. That wasn't right. My grandfather was long gone, and I hadn't given anyone permission to set foot on this land. Emily leaned forward. "Noah, is someone staying here?" Before I could respond, I caught movement on the deck. 2 women in sundresses were toasting with iced tea under my grandfather's sagging pergola. Their laughter carried across the yard. A kid zoomed by with a pool float, nearly bumping into Liam, who gaped from the back seat. I cut the engine and stepped out, unsure if I was walking into a simple mix-up or some bizarre, uninvited house party. A guy in sandals strolled over, all easy smiles. "Hey, you must be the next guests. Linda said someone might check in later." My jaw nearly hit the ground. "I'm sorry, what guests?" "Yeah, this place is great. Linda M. set us up through a private site. She said the previous owner sold it, and she manages it now for the HOA. He flashed his phone, showing a reservation email. The header read, "Shoreline Haven, managed by Linda M." I grabbed the phone, my pulse spiking. There it was, me house, my deck, my old propane grill. The rate, $275 a night, with weekly discounts. Emily stepped beside me, her voice low. "Noah, this is your house. What's going on?" I didn't answer, still staring at the listing, trying to wrap my head around it. Linda M. I'd heard the name, new president of the local HOA, known for sicking code enforcement on anyone whose mailbox tilted slightly off-center. But this? I handed the phone back. "I need you all to wrap up your stay and be gone by the end of the week." The guy blinked, confused. "Wait, you're not with the rental service?" "No, I'm the owner. The actual one." He gave an awkward laugh. "Linda said she had the rights." "Yeah," I muttered, heading for the house. "She's about to find out she doesn't." That night, I barely slept, not because the beds were lumpy, I hadn't even gotten that far, but because I was glued to my laptop, eyes stinging as I scoured site after site. There it was, over and over. My house, listed as a premium lakeside retreat, curated by Linda M., the gem of our HOA-managed vacation portfolio. Portfolio? What portfolio? Since when did the HOA run errands? The listings were polished professional photos with perfect lighting, drone shots I'd never seen. The lawn was manicured, the shutters painted a crisp charcoal, and someone had hung fairy lights along the deck railing. My deck. My railing. I clicked the reviews, and my stomach churned. Dozens, stretching back over a year. Lovely spot. Linda was so accommodating. Perfect weekend escape. Loved the fire pit. Can't wait to return next summer. One even called it the cornerstone of Lakeview Shores, HOA's hospitality program. It felt like reading a sci-fi novel about my own life, written by a con artist. The next morning, while Emily took Liam into town for groceries and a breather, I called every rental platform listed, rattling off property IDs and listing numbers. Most reps were polite, but vague. They confirmed the listings, but couldn't share host details beyond the public profile. Linda M. Premier host. By mid-afternoon, I was pacing the property, noticing upgrades I hadn't paid for. Solar path lights, a fancy hose reel, fresh gravel under the deck. Someone had been pouring money into my house. Whether Linda was skimming rental profits or running an HOA-funded fantasy camp, it reeked of fraud. Then, as if drawn by my growing fury, she appeared. I heard the sharp tap of heels on gravel before I saw her. Ash blonde bob, designer sunglasses, a practiced smile that screamed, "I'm here to help," right before ruining your day. Linda Marshall. She didn't even look surprised. "Oh," she said, shifting her leather satchel. I didn't know you were staying. Check-ins are usually Fridays. Cut the act, I snapped. This is my house. You're not a realtor, not a managerial trespasser who's been profiting off my property for over a year. Her smile held, but her voice sharpened. That's a bold claim. I've been maintaining this property in your absence. You abandoned it. The HOA stepped in. I've built a reputation for this location, and I've invested. In my house, I cut in. You never had my permission. You never even asked. She shrugged, like I was overreacting to a borrowed lawnmower. Nobody else complained. I've enhanced community value. The guests have been wonderful. The guests, I muttered. Yeah, I'll be talking to them. And the police. And a lawyer. That got her. Her lips tightened, her eyes narrowing behind her shades. That's your right, she said, her tone now frosty. But HOA policy supports me. The community appreciates what I've done. I stared her down. We'll see what the law says. She spun on her heel and walked off, as if she hadn't just confessed to the most audacious theft I'd ever heard. I stood there, pulse pounding, the truth sinking in. This wasn't just trespassing. It was a schemia resort-style hustle, and it was time to end it. The next morning, I changed every lock. Front door, back door, shed, even the rusty padlock on the boathouse that hadn't budged since the Clinton era. I installed motion lights, slapped up 6 private property, no trace trespassing signs, and parked my truck across the driveway like a barricade. Subtlety was over. Linda had declared war, and I was done playing nice. That afternoon, while I was bolting a new gate latch, tires crunched on gravel. I turned, almost laughing. There was Linda, marching up in full battle mode. HOA embroidered polo, clipboard, sunglasses, flanked by 2 guys in matching gray polos labeled HOA Community Patrol. One was popping gum like a teenager. The other wore wraparound shades like he was auditioning for a SWAT team. Mr. Harper, Linda called, her voice syrupy but taut. We need access. We have a confirmed reservation checking in at 5. I stepped back from the gate, leaning on the fence post. No one's checking in, ever again. This property's closed indefinitely. The gum-chewer stepped forward, chest puffed. Sir, you're interfering with HOA operations. That's a violation. Violation of what? I said. I'm not in the HOA. This house never was, and you know it. Linda clicked her pen, scribbling on her clipboard. That's debatable. We've been maintaining the grounds. Guests are scheduled for weeks. This isn't just about you, it's about community expectations. Expectations don't trump ownership, I said. Unless you've got a court order in that clipboard, you're all trespassing. I've got the deed inside and cameras rolling from 4 angles. Test me. Linda's eyes narrowed. Then I'm calling the police. You're threatening guests with unlawful occupancy denial. Please do, I said, pulling out my phone. I've been meaning to say hi. 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser rolled up. A deputy, young but no nonsense, stepped out, hand on his belt, taking in the scene. 3 tense HOA enforcers and 1 pissed-off guy with a power drill. Linda launched into her sob story, playing the victim. This man's blocking access to a publicly rented property. He's threatening HOA staff. He's not even in our member directory. I handed the deputy my ID, title documents, and a folder stuffed with listing screenshots, timestamps, and a notarized affidavit from my lawyer. After a few minutes of review, he let out a slow whistle. Ma'am, he said to Linda, this property belongs to Mr. Harper. There's no record of a transfer, lease, or HOA jurisdiction. You've got no ground to stand on. But he's interfering, she started. You're trespassing, the deputy cut in. One more incident, and I'm issuing citations. Clear. Linda's face twisted, but she nodded. Her escorts slunk back to their SUV like scolded kids. As they drove off, I exhaled. One battle won, but this was far from over. It was time to go on the offensive. Linda was too polished, too practiced. She'd spun a story so convincing she probably believed it herself. She was the noble caretaker of a community rental empire, while I, the absent owner, had left the place to rot. People bought it had a 4.8-star rating. So I decided to turn the tables. I called an old friend, Matt Delaney, a college buddy turned corporate attorney. Clean-cut, quick-witted, and with the kind of unassuming charm that screamed, I'll nod along if the coffee's decent. Perfect for a sting. He posed as a tourist, contacting Linda M. through a rental platform still listing my house. Her reply was instant, warm, professional, almost too friendly. She called herself a community curator and pitched the house as part of an exclusive HOA lake retreat. No mention of me, no disclaimer, not a hint she was acting for anyone else. She sounded like the owner. The real gem? She sent Matt a digital welcome packet, PDF maps, codes for a keypad lock I'd already torn out, and a limited property access agreement. It looked legit fancy letterhead, a fake notary stamp, and a forged signature I knew well. Mine. Matt forwarded it all to me via email, every message. We had her in her own words. Still, we needed hard evidence, something beyond digital trails. So we took it further. Matt showed up for check-in on Saturday morning, a GoPro hidden in his jacket button. He parked down the road and waited. At 11:15, a white BMW pulled into the drive. A woman with teased hair and a tablet stepped out, not Linda, but her sidekick, Rachel Vance, a local realtor who doubled as Linda's property coordinator. She greeted Matt like he was royalty. "Welcome. We're thrilled to have you. Linda's tied up at the HOA meeting, but asked me to get you settled." Matt played dumb perfectly. "So you guys own this place?" "Oh yes," Rachel chirped. "It's part of the HOA portfolio now. The previous owner signed over access years ago, some trust deal. Linda handles everything." Matt pressed. "So this isn't, like, someone else's property?" Rachel waved it off. No, all above board. You're in great hands." And there it was in video. Fraud, a false ownership claim, a straight-up lie. After Rachel left, Matt texted me. She walked right into it. I nearly laughed. This wasn't just squatting with flair, it was a curated scam, complete with welcome baskets and deck furniture. And now I had the proof to torch it. With Rachel's recorded lies, Linda's rental empire was cracking. But something didn't add up. The upgrades were 2 extensive new planters, a hot tub, string lights. I hadn't spent a cent, yet the place looked like an HGTV special. So I dug deeper. I pulled the HOA's public budget reports, those dull PDFs nobody reads, and spent 3 nights at the lake house with my laptop and a bottle of bourbon, combing through every line like a detective with a grudge. There it was, under community enhancements and shared spaces, lakeside pergola repairs, $3,800, deck refinishing, waterfront area, $8,200, and the kicker, hot tub installation, deluxe model, $12,500. There was only one lakeside pergola in the area, mine. The next morning, I called an old contact, Derek, a contractor I'd worked with in the city. I gave him the address and asked if he'd done any jobs here. He sent back a photo of an invoice addressed to Lakeview Shores HOA, work site listed as my property, signed by Linda Marshall. That was it. She'd been funneling HOA funds to make my house rental ready, likely pitching it as a community asset, while pocketing the rental cash. The real bombshell came when I got a call from Carl Tobin, a stranger who turned out to be the HOA's former treasurer. He'd heard I was pushing back on Linda and wanted to talk. We met at a diner off Route 41, and over soggy pancakes, he unloaded. "She forced me out," he said. "I flagged discrepancies, funds spent on non-HOA parcels, invoices that didn't match the maps. A month later, I was voted out in a secret meeting. She runs that board like a dictatorship." Then he leaned in. "Here's what nobody says. She has a record. Fraud, small-time real estate hustle in Arizona, about a decade ago. Changed her name, used her maiden name on HOA filings to slip past background checks." I froze. "You're serious?" Carl nodded. "I found it when she ran for president. Flagged it. They brushed it off, said it was too late to reconsider." I stared at my coffee, stunned. This woman wasn't just cocky, she was a pro. That night, my lawyer ran a check on her original name, Linda Grayson. Sure enough, convicted of wire fraud and falsifying property records in 2011, pled out, mostly sealed. But not sealed enough. We compiled it all into a folder labeled Fraud History, Exhibit C. If Linda thought her rental racket could survive scrutiny, she was about to get burned. It went down at 2:42 a.m. I wasn't asleep. I was in the living room with a mug of stale coffee and a browser tab on How to Sue an HOA. My phone buzzed. Motion detected. Backyard, west fence. The thermal camera showed 3 figures, one with a backpack, one with what looked like bolt cutters, and one with a damn tablet. No way. I peeked through the blinds. There they were, dressed like budget ninjas in black and khaki. Leading the pack, Linda Marshall, in leggings and a jacket with HOA President in bold letters on the back. I nearly snorted. I switched to my phone camera, hit record, and called 911, speaking loud enough for them to hear. Hi, this is Noah Harper. I've got 3 trespassers trying to break into my private property. One's my HOA president. They're in black, carrying tools. No, this isn't a prank. Outside, the bolt cutters clanked, and a chain hit the grass. They were through the side gate. Linda waved a flashlight like a low-rent spy. Rachel Vance trailed her, clutching a folder like it was a shield. The third was Greg, one of her HOA patrol guys, built like a linebacker with the brains of a toaster. They crept past the pond, heading for the deck. Rachel whispered, "Is he here?" Linda hissed back, "Doesn't matter. We're just doing an emergency property audit." Emergency audit, my ass. I stepped onto the porch and flipped on the floodlights. 3 startled faces froze. Linda's tablet hit the rose bushes. "Evening," I said. "Bit late for a book club, isn't it?" Greg stopped dead, like a kid caught sneaking candy. Rachel took a step back, heels sinking into the dirt. Linda recovered fastest, naturally. "This property's under HOA inspection," she snapped, as if she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. "You're obstructing official community business." "You're breaking and entering," I said. "And there's a 4th guest about to join us. He's got a badge." Right on cue, headlights flashed. A sheriff's cruiser rolled up, red and blue lights cutting through the dark. Deputy Callahan stepped out, blinking at the scene. "Linda, why are you on this man's property at 2:45 a.m.? She straightened, ready for her close-up. "Officer, we're investigating irregularities in community access. I have authorization." Callahan shut her down. "You don't. I've seen the case. This property's not under HOA jurisdiction. Unless you're filming a bad heist movie, I suggest you stop." Greg raised his hands. "I was just here to carry stuff." "Yeah," I said, "like the bolt cutters." Linda sputtered. "This property's vital to community image. It belongs to us in spirit." Callahan pulled out cuffs. "Linda Marshall, you're under arrest for trespassing, attempted fraud, conspiracy to commit unlawful entry, and, honestly, bringing a tablet to a felony." As he cuffed her, she yelled, "This is a witch hunt. I'm the heart of this community. I have rights." He led her to the cruiser. "And I have a booking sheet. Let's compare." As the lights faded, I stood on my deck in sweatpants and a hoodie, sipping cold coffee. Not a bad way to start the day. The courtroom smelled like wax and Nerve's lemon polish mixed with quiet panic. Linda sat at the defense table in a gray suit that screamed, "I'm misunderstood." Her face was a study in calculated indignation, wide eyes, subtle frowns, the occasional headshake at her lawyer's murmurs. Rachel fidgeted like she was waiting for a root canal. Greg wasn't there. He'd taken a plea deal and turned state's witness. Smartest thing he ever did. My lawyer, David Reese, was a silver-haired bulldog with a stack of files and a vibe that said, "I dismantle scams before lunch." Opening statements were a bloodbath. Linda's defense claimed it was all a misunderstood property arrangement, that she acted in good faith, believing the house was abandoned. David stood and said, "We'll prove otherwise with her own words, her forged documents, and her prior felony record." The room buzzed. Linda's eyes flickered. Over 3 days, the prosecution laid it out. Video of Rachel claiming the house was HOA property, invoices paid from HOA funds for my hot tub and landscaping, screenshots of Linda's rental accounts, the fake welcome packet with my forged signature, and the knockout punch her 2011 wire fraud conviction in Arizona under her maiden name, Linda Grayson. When that landed, the room felt like it tilted. Linda's composure cracked. Her lawyer paled, scrambling to object, but the record stood. She'd lied on HOA filings, to rental platforms, to the community. The jury took under 4 hours. Verdict: guilty on all civil counts. Criminal charges: trespassing, attempted fraud, falsifying records, illegal rental income, misuse of HOA funds. Sentence: 1 year probation, 500 hours of community service, $90,000 in restitution to me, plus $30,000 in legal fees, and a permanent ban from any HOA office. When the judge asked if I had anything to say, I stood. I just want my house back, no tourists, no trespassers, no tactical tablets. The bailiff smirked. Linda didn't. 3 weeks later, we threw a real Pertino app check-ins, just friends, neighbors, family, burgers, beers, and Emily's killer coleslaw. We called it the Unrental Bash. The new HOA board showed up. Linda's fall had sparked a voter revolt, ousting her allies for people with actual ethics. One older neighbor brought a piñata shaped like a tablet. It didn't last long. The moment everyone remembers came at sunset. Liam and I were on a ladder, bolting a new custom sign to the front gate. Emily handed me a beer and nodded at the small crowd reading it. The sign read, "Private property. Not for rent. Not for HOA. If your name's Linda, keep walking." In smaller print, "Trespassers will be fed to the fish." No joke. People clapped. Someone blasted "Sweet Home Alabama." Even the sheriff swung by and asked for a photo with the sign. As dusk settled over the lake, laughter floating through the trees, I sank into a chair and looked at the house. My house. No strangers in the hot tub, no fake contracts, no HOA commandos skulking in the shadows. Just peace, family, and the soft glow of fairy lights I actually okayed. If Linda ever tried coming back, well, the fish were starving.